This is a pre-recorded training for opioid mitigation strategies within the PBIS framework. I am Erica Houston, consultant with the ESC of Northeast Ohio. The purpose of the training is to support schools and districts in implementing or enhancing efforts around opioid use mitigation and prevention. The training will introduce current trends and statistics on opioid use, define prevention in the PBIS framework, then provide examples of opioid strategies that can be implemented within a PBIS framework. After today's training, schools and districts will be able to incorporate effective opioid abuse prevention and mitigation strategies within multi-tiered behavioral frameworks, include strategies to address the mental health needs of students negatively impacted by opioid use. The next slides will provide some basic data on national and state level opioid use and overdose death. In October 2017, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services declared a public health emergency to address rising overdose deaths related to the opioid epidemic. Opioids include heroin, synthetic opioids such as fentanyl, and pain relievers available legally by prescription, such as oxycodone, hydrocodone, codeine, and morphine. When we use the term opioid throughout the presentation, this includes all types of opioids listed here. 2020 was Ohio's highest year for unintentional overdose deaths. Most recent cases of fentanyl-related harm, overdose, and death in the U.S. are linked to illegally made fentanyl. Pharmaceutical fentanyl is a synthetic opioid approved for treating severe pain, typically advanced cancer pain. It is 50 to 100 times more potent than morphine. Fentanyl can be added to other drugs because of its extreme potency, which makes drugs cheaper, more powerful, more addictive, and more dangerous. Fentanyl was involved in 81% of overdose deaths in 2020, often in combination with other drugs. Fentanyl was involved in 83% of all heroin-related overdose deaths, 80% of all cocaine-related overdose deaths, and 79% of all psychostimulant methamphetamine-related overdose deaths. In 2021, the Ohio Narcotics Intelligence Center released a public safety bulletin alerting Ohioans that counterfeit or fake prescription tablets that look like Xanax and OxyContin are being sold in Ohio. These dangerous counterfeits contain fentanyl and other contents that could cause death. In 2022, the Drug Enforcement Administration began advising the public of an alarming emerging trend of colorful fentanyl available across the United States, dubbed rainbow fentanyl in the media. There are varying explanations for the purpose of the coloring: a marketing tactic to appeal to young people, or coloring pills to look like fentanyl-free opioids from a pharmacy. Recovery Ohio created a public awareness campaign focused on warning middle school, high school, and college students and their families of the dangers of counterfeit pills. Counterfeit pills have become increasingly easier to access online, as well as more difficult to differentiate from real medications prescribed from a doctor. Many of the strategy recommendations included in this training came from the Ohio Joint Study Committee on Drug Use Prevention. Governor DeWine created the study committee, which was made up of 24 members from across the state, including teachers, superintendents, substance abuse preventionists, elected officials, law enforcement officers, and other professionals. The committee was charged with examining how communities can implement consistent, age-appropriate drug messaging, particularly in schools. The study committee issued 15 recommendations for schools and communities to reduce and help prevent substance abuse. A resource guide was also released, which provides additional information about the recommendations and case studies from schools in Ohio that are implementing substance use prevention strategies. The first recommendation of the study committee is to provide consistent, age-appropriate, evidence-based substance abuse education for all students. Trauma-informed approaches strengthen staff and student connections, promote parent and community partnerships, and improve school climate. The opioid epidemic has caused trauma. Implementing opioid mitigation and prevention strategies must be implemented from a trauma-sensitive lens. Adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, are potentially traumatic events that occur in childhood. Adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, are stressful or traumatic events, including abuse and neglect. Experiencing or witnessing violence in the household or in the community can undermine a child's sense of safety, stability, and bonding. Growing up with family members who have substance use disorders could be traumatic for a child. ACEs are linked to chronic health problems, mental illness, and substance use problems in adolescence and adulthood. ACEs can also negatively impact education, job opportunities, and earning potential. However, ACEs can be prevented by teaching skills, creating safe, stable, nurturing environments, and intervening to lessen harms. A mental health professional should be involved when addressing ACEs or trauma that a student has experienced. Children living in a home with a parent using opioids are more likely to experience a parental overdose, chronic stress, added household responsibilities, and unmet mental health needs. These children are at a higher risk for physical, academic, and social emotional problems. Children of family members who use opioids and other substances are at higher risk for developing an opioid use disorder themselves, a higher likelihood of encountering traumatic experiences, and exposure to the child welfare system. Schools can help to support students that have experienced trauma by providing a safe, predictable, and positive environment. The Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration lists 4 key elements to facilitate the transformation into a trauma-informed organization or practice. Realize the impact of trauma. Recognize signs and symptoms of trauma in patients, families, and staff within the organization. Respond by integrating knowledge about trauma into policies, procedures, and practices. Resist re-traumatizing patients and staff. Prevention programming and family engagement can help to prevent further harms associated with opioid use. Prevention programs can prevent youth from using substances by providing them with knowledge and skills. The Interconnected Systems Framework, or ISF, is a structure and process to integrate positive behavioral interventions and supports and school mental health within school systems. The goal is to blend resources, training, systems, data, and practices in order to improve outcomes for all children and youth. The Interconnected Systems Framework, or ISF, has an emphasis on prevention, early identification, and intervention of the social, emotional, and behavior needs of students. Family and community partner involvement is critical to this framework. By combining PBIS and SMH, the ISF brings together resources to support students' mental and behavioral health. Students impacted by substance use can benefit from having a full continuum of services available. Like PBIS, prevention services should be structured in a tiered manner based on students' needs. Prevention strategies can be implemented within a PBIS framework and should be aligned with current efforts to form a comprehensive approach. As defined by Ohio law, prevention services are a planned sequence of culturally relevant, evidence-based strategies which are designed to reduce the likelihood of or delay the onset of mental, emotional, and behavioral disorders. Prevention services are intentionally designed to reduce risk or promote health before the onset of a disorder and are population-specific and targeted to specific levels of risk. Prevention programs can be used to increase protective factors, promoting health and safety of individuals and the community. The majority of adults who meet the criteria for having a substance use disorder started using substances during their teen and young adult years. Implementing protective factors can reduce the likelihood of a student's future substance use and improve mental health and educational outcomes. Examples of protective factors can include parental involvement, social connections, safe and engaging after-school programs and activities, high self-esteem, emotional self-regulation, and good coping skills and problem-solving skills. Prevention programs, just like positive behavioral interventions and supports, or PBIS, should be structured in a tiered manner based on a child's need. Prevention programs can be targeted at mental health, behavior, and/or substance use. In schools, prevention services fit within a multi-tiered system of support, such as PBIS framework. Tier 1, preventative measures for all students, regardless of risk for mental, emotional, and behavioral health problems. This includes programs and activities that promote positive school climate, social, emotional, and behavioral health skills, and overall wellness. Tier 2, early interventions for some students. Tier 3, individual intervention for a few.
Hello everybody, my name is Brian Callahan. I'm an education consultant with the State Support Team for Region 3. I will continue with this presentation. PBIS and prevention, the planning process. Schools should use a planning process when determining how to address substance use and which prevention programs should be established. Research and experience have shown that prevention must begin with an understanding of these complex behavioral health problems within their complex environmental context. Only then can communities establish and implement effective plans to address substance misuse. Schools can select any planning process they feel is appropriate. Examples of planning processes that could be used include team-initiated problem solving, the Ohio Improvement Process, or strategic prevention framework. While schools might not be accustomed to using the SPF, most local prevention coalitions will be. Each phase of the SPF, with recommendations from the Ohio Joint Study Committee on Drug Use Prevention Education, can be found in the Ohio Attorney General's Drug Use Prevention Education Resource Guide. Instead of creating a new team or implementing outside of an existing system, the school's PBIS team can provide leadership and coordination to address substance use. School and district leaders can support teams by participating in decisions and providing resources to meet the needs identified by the team, including time, training, or additional personnel. Consider partnering with local agencies like those listed on the slide to enhance prevention efforts. A defining feature of PBIS is continuous improvement driven by data. Teams collect and analyze data to diagnose problems or gaps and select strategies to address these challenges. Data tells us which strategies are most effective, so we continue to include them in our repertoire. Schools should reference data when determining students' needs and rates of substance use. Schools may wish to use the following tools to collect and analyze data. SWPBIS Tiered Fidelity Inventory, used to assess which features of PBIS are in place at each tier. Ohio Healthy Youth Environmental Survey, OES, is a free voluntary web-based survey to collect information that schools and communities can access resources to reduce risky behavior and create healthy and safe community, schools, and family environments. School drug use surveys. Schools can use national, regional, or local surveys to collect specific data to drug use. To assist with the planning process, schools can choose to develop a logic model to represent the process visually. Logic model visualize both the reasoning for selecting a specific prevention program as well as the intended goals. The logic model should help address the following questions. Is it evidence-based, effective, or promising? Does it target the root cause for the prevention priorities? Is it culturally relevant for the population? To successfully address opiate use, prevention planners need information about the effectiveness of available programs and practices. When selecting what program or strategies will be used, the school team will need to determine which options have the greatest potential to work well in their unique settings and how to embed the program into their PBIS framework. There are many programs that have been created to address opiate use. A program is a set of predetermined, structured, and coordinated activities. An evidence-based program is a program which has been rigorously tested in controlled settings, proven effective, and translated into practice. To have positive outcomes, an evidence-based program must be carefully selected, implemented to fidelity, and continually improved over time. This is why using a strategic planning process is necessary. It helps ensure the best program is being selected for the specific needs, setting, and audience. When selecting a program, schools must make sure the program is conceptual fit. Is the degree to which a program or practice is a good match for the job that needs to be done. Practical fit is the degree to which a program or practice is a good match for the people involved in the community overall. Evidence of effectiveness is proof that the program or practice can or cannot do the job that needs to be done. The program must reflect community's belief, experiences, and attitudes, culturally competent, and must be implemented as intended. Remember to avoid ineffective prevention strategies. Although those that choose to implement the strategies often have positive intent, the impact of scare tactics can potentially be harmful and are ineffective in preventing substance use. Mock car crashes, gruesome scenes, images of people before and after drug addiction, graphic depictions of death and drug use, auditorium speakers who share how drugs ruin their lives, and other frightening messages are all scare tactics. Scare tactics emphasize the worst dangers of drug use and create fear and anxiety in the hopes that fear alone will prevent or stop risky behavior. Scare tactics may create imminent temporary reactions, but they do not provide the youth with knowledge and skills that are needed to make healthy decisions. Scare tactics can backfire, especially with high-risk youth. They can create the impression that drug use is more prevalent than it really is. Decades of research have proven that scare tactics are an ineffective approach to prevention. Informational tables and displays which showcase drugs and drug paraphernalia are not effective prevention. General awareness and statistics on drugs and their effects or teaching signs and symptoms of addiction are not effective prevention. This is because information dissemination alone does not lead to knowledge or skill development. Additionally, students with sensation-seeking personality, the tendency to seek varied, novel, complex, and intense sensations and experiences, may use this information to learn about drugs and potentially enhance their likelihood to try the substance. Opiate mitigation and prevention strategies can be implemented within a school's pre-existing PBIS framework. The following portion of the training will provide some examples of programming that a school may wish to implement. Please note, the programs shared are examples. Every school should use a planning process to determine which program is right for their school environment. Ohio Joint Study Committee on Drug Use Prevention Education identified 12 prevention services that it believes make up a comprehensive prevention plan. The 12 services are listed here. 1. Before and after school programs. A study found that children who do not spend time in after-school programs are 49% more likely to use drugs. 2. Cross-curricular prevention education. This technique is an effective method that allows teachers to expand substance use prevention education to students while maintaining focus on core coursework. 3. Health education curricula. This curriculum should address knowledge and skill building, such as resistance and resiliency, so students can stay drug-free or delay early onset of use. 4. Social and emotional learning, allowing students to acquire knowledge, attitudes, and the skill necessary to understand and manage emotions, set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain positive relationships, and make responsible decisions. 5. School climate and drug use surveys. School climate and drug use surveys collect information that can be used to measure student trends, needs, and access to services. Alcohol, drug, and mental health board engagement and treatment providers. ADAM boards can work with schools to identify programming that is culturally competent and targets to the need. ADAMS boards receive state funding to implement these types of programs. 7. Caregiver engagement. Parent, mentors, and peers can make a difference just by talking to young people in their lives about drug use. 8. Law enforcement engagement. Schools should proactively engage law enforcement in prevention efforts. 9. Professional development in mental health and substance use. Professional development in mental health and substance use provides individuals working with youth the tools and resources needed to identify the signs of mental illness and substance use, skills to navigate difficult situations, and the understanding of the right language to use when students who are struggling. Training should come and have a focus on trauma. 10. Youth-led prevention. Programming that develop the youth knowledge and skills and attitudes can be a catalyst for positive change within their communities. The programming is delivered by students with adult assistance as needed. 11. Community-based health referrals. Establishing relationships, resources, and processes to refer youth age appropriate services. 12. School-based health care services. Health services are provided through the school to create an accessible, connected community and keep students in the classroom and learning. As we look at prevention and mitigation strategies within the PBIS framework, we will expand on some of these strategies. Tier 1 systems serve as the foundation upon which all other tiers are built. With school-wide systems in place, schools can ensure students and staff are thriving and quickly identify which students need additional support. Tier 1 systems, data, and practices support everyone across all settings. They establish the foundation for delivering regular, proactive support and preventing unwanted behaviors. Tier 1 emphasizes modeling, teaching, and acknowledging positive social, emotional, and behavioral skills. Teams, data, consistent policy, professional development, and evaluation are essential components for these practices to work effectively. The department does not endorse any specific evidence-based program throughout the training. Examples of the prevention programs that can be provided. The Ohio Attorney General's Drug Use Prevention Education Resource Guide provides additional examples of what schools throughout the state are doing to prevent opiate use. Some examples of prevention programs that schools may be familiar with include the Health and Opiate Prevention Education HOPE curriculum is a series of lessons, assessments, and learning materials to develop students' functional knowledge, attitudes, and necessary skills to prevent drug abuse. Generation RX provides a variety of age-appropriate toolkits to educate audiences about the potential dangers of misusing prescription medication. PACS, Good Behavior Game, is an evidence-based, universal, preventive intervention that consists of a set of research-based strategies that operate to improve children's self-regulation. Screening, brief intervention, and referral to treatment is a comprehensive, integrated public health approach to the delivery of early intervention and treatment services for persons with substance use disorders, as well as those who are at risk of developing these disorders. Although school teams can use disciplinary data to assess what the problems are, this is a reactive approach. Some have begun to assess the prevalence of substance misuse throughout the school-wide screening. When considering a screener selection, school teams need to balance the amount of information they wish to collect, the privacy of the students whose information is being collected, and the scope of support that can reasonably be provided through the school or school-based referral. Tier 2 practices stem from a strong foundation of Tier 1 support. With school-wide systems in place, schools are able to identify which students need additional support. Tier 2 practices and systems focus on supporting students who are at risk for developing more serious problem behaviors before they start. Tier 2 supports often involve group interventions with 10 or more students participating. Specific Tier 2 interventions include practices such as social skills groups, self-management, and academic supports. Targeted instruction of behavioral skills such as coping, problem solving, and emotional regulation. Examples of programming that schools may be familiar with include before and after school programming can provide opportunities for targeted populations to participate in safe and healthy activities that exclude substance use. The assumption is that constructive and healthy activities provide positive alternatives to drug use and other unhealthy choices. This could include free social and recreational events, community drop-in centers, community service activities, youth and adult leadership activities. At Tier 3, these students receive more intensive, individualized support to improve their behavioral and academic outcomes. Schools should consider working with a community partner, local alcohol, drug addiction, and mental health service board, and community-based provider to refer to the students and their families to appropriate substance use resources. This could potentially include a licensed chemical dependency counselor, LCDC, helps people with substance use disorders better understand and cope with addiction. Creating an environment that promotes safe choices about substance use and offers mitigation and prevention strategies is necessary to create a comprehensive drug prevention plan. A school culture in which peers and families are involved is a protective factor against substance use. For example, youth-led prevention, where peers engage with others to create social norms that do not include the use of substances. Family engagement. The school engages and informs the community and parents around the opiate crisis and prevention content. Examples: drug availability awareness, drug disposal, parental monitoring, and after-school activities. Professional development, mental health first aid, or other programs that teaches the staff the signs, symptoms, and responses to substance use. Drug disposal program. Prescription drug take-back programs, disposal programs, have been shown to reduce the availability of prescription medication in the home by teaching parents how to set expectations related to the use of prescription opiates and secure or discard unused medication. Naloxone, an opiate antagonist given when suspected overdose occurs. The goal of prevention programs, just like PBIS, is to improve outcomes. To determine if a program is having the intended impact, schools must evaluate and monitor outcomes. Monitor the solution's impact. Ask if the strategies worked. Check the data collected to check whether the goal was met, showed progress, or gotten worse. Measuring the impact ties directly back to the measurable goal teams set in the first decision-making steps. Collecting data for evaluation. Some programs have specific data collection tools, like a post-survey, to assess knowledge gained. Additionally, school-wide data can be collected as a part of the PBIS data collection measures. These include Tiered Fidelity Inventory, TFI, is a research-validated measure to assess how closely school personnel apply the core features of PBIS. The TFI measures 3 separate surveys, one assessing each tier. Using the survey separates or in combination with each other. School-wide survey, SES, to measure student, staff, and family perspectives of school climate. Benchmarks of equality, BOQ, to measure in detail the team's perspective on Tier 1 strengths, weaknesses, and overall implementation. Schools may consider working with local colleges or universities, their educational service centers, ESCs, and local ATOM board or local prevention coalition to conduct evaluations of prevention programming. Please complete the following post-survey regarding today's training. The quadratic survey can be found at https://miami.oh.jfe/FORM/SV_3MX/JFE//FKKFBU3MEV. Alternatively, the survey can also be accessed using this tiny URL, https://tinyurl.com/yyDbyg8u, or the QR code above. The master trainer must collect contact information from the group, one person from each school/district, to serve as a point of contact. This person will be responsible for completing a survey, which will be sent by email 3 and 6 months after the training. These resources, along with others, are also included in the supplemental handout. The supplemental handout can be emailed out to all participants following the training.